Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll discuss the idea of increasing the gasoline tax. And on this Constitution Day, we'll learn about the history of the Bill of Rights. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. A federal judge today refused to force the State Department of Gaming to issue a license to the Tohono O'odham Nation's new casino resort near Glendale. The judge did allow the suit against the state's gaming director to proceed, but dismissed the governor and attorney general as defendants. And Arizona's seasonally adjusted jobless rate for August came in today, 6.3%. That's up 0.2% from July, but 0.4 below where it stood last year at this time. Arizona's August numbers are still well above the national unemployment rate of 5.1%. And the Arizona Board of Regents released a report today that shows that less than half of Arizona high school graduates meet the criteria to enroll in the state's major public universities. The report also found that the rate has not changed over the past 5 years. Board of Regents President Eileen Klein says that the data indicates that educators need to do a better job of preparing students to transition to higher education. Different polling shows either majority support or opposition to increasing the gasoline tax. Here now to talk about whether or not it's time to raise the gas tax is Tony Bradley, President and CEO of the Arizona Trucking Association, and Michael Hunter, Vice President for State and Fiscal Affairs from the Goldwater Institute. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Let's define terms. A gas tax. What is it? How does it work?
Gas tax is a flat tax on gasoline here in the state of Arizona. You pay 18 cents at the state gas for gas, 18 cents federal. On diesel, you pay 26 cents for diesel for the state tax, and then 18 cents at the federal level.
And this pays for federal transportation projects, which in turn help pay for state transportation projects? Is that how it works?
Right. There's federal money that is distributed to the departments of transportation in the states, and then it siphons down through a labyrinthine mechanism that goes into state and local governments. Impact
of the tax on Arizona transportation projects.
Well, before that, basic numbers, each consumer pays about $10 a month in state gas tax. To give you some parameters, $10 in federal gas tax. Right now, with what's going on in Washington, there's been uncertainty with the federal government almost, the Highway Trust Fund almost going bankrupt every few months. So it stopped projects from going forward because the state doesn't know that they're going to, if they start a project, they don't know that they can finish it, and that increased costs. So it's affecting how we build our roads and how quickly we're constructing those roads.
So there is quite the impact on Arizona transportation projects.
There certainly is, and if you think about where citizens and taxpayers are actually touched by government, if you will, they're certainly on roads. When you notice that you're in congestion or there are potholes, it becomes an important factor for citizens, and so the citizens have cooperated in certain tax increases. Prop 400 was a sales tax, but recently Prop 204 that was tied to education tax didn't pass. But those are different taxes than the gas tax. I think the argument that gets made about inflation not keeping up and that it hasn't been increased since 1993, et cetera. Right now it is true that for every dollar spent on the gas tax, it's about 62 cents worth by today's numbers. But just because there's a gap in the number, citizens and taxpayers aren't held harmless for the impact of inflation. So that's kind of a flat argument. What matters, I think, to taxpayers, and the evidence has shown this in the Arizona experience, is what is the proposal? Does it make sense? And then I think the voters are more willing to cooperate with the exercise.
An increase in the gas tax. What is the proposal? What's the best proposal? And does it make sense?
There's currently not a proposal in the state of Arizona. And I think that's because, I feel bad for the gas tax because really, in my view, it's a user fee. The more you use, the more fuel you use, the more you drive on the roads, the more you pay into the system. But we make it sound like it's a sin tax. We make it sound like, the gas tax is this bad thing. We don't want anybody to pay it. We don't want to raise it. We haven't raised it since 1993. There is discussion about the gas tax. It's always on the table, but there's been inaction, at least for the last 20 plus years, on raising that. And before 1993, it was something we raised from time to time. We adjusted for inflation. the legislature. Roads are nonpartisan. They're not Republican. They're not Democrat, and they were able to increase those with our needs. We haven't done that in 20 plus years.
So because we haven't done that in 20 plus years, you got 1993 as kind of the benchmark there. Whether it's flat or not, it's still kind of there as a marker. Construction costs must have increased since then, and I know that gas efficiency has certainly increased. That means you're getting less revenue, doesn't it?
You're getting less revenue, and we're not getting any more revenue into the system. And so you're right. Construction costs have gone up significantly. The cost of everything's gone up because it wasn't indexed in 1993. We've lost that buying power, and it's about 70% of the buying power. As states grown, we're starting to see more congestion. We're starting to see our roads deteriorating outside Maricopa County, where we do have the half-cent sales tax.
Are there better ways, private roads, toll roads? Should the gas tax be for miles driven as opposed to gallons used?
I think there are a lot of creative thoughts out there and a lot of debates that we've both been engaged in over the years about how to fund this. There's a sort of nostalgia for the gas tax. This is really a 1950s legacy tax. I mean, it's really when it started to be an important tax. And so it played its role, but it's not that popular. You know, people are watching what's at the, what the price is at the pump. That matters to people. People are looking for more gas efficient vehicles and don't want to translate that into an excuse to raise a tax to make up the difference. So I don't think it would be a very popular tax, although there is polling that suggests that there may be an interest in it. There's also polling that would suggest that there is not so much interest. And what matters, I think, in the difference in those polls is what the proposal is. That really matters a lot.
What makes sense to you?
Well, so one thing where at least the polling data shows is that the more you get into transit versus roads and highways. People care a lot about roads and highways. They want them to work. They don't want the bridges collapsing, all of that sort of stuff. That really matters to them and probably would be willing to pay. But that's where we get into, the path of least resistance in Arizona is really the sales tax. That's where we tend to go to solve a lot of public problems.
What do you think about that idea, moving some of this to sales tax locations?
Well, first, we believe in a user pays kind of concept, and I think everybody does. The problem is the revenue. Even adding 10 cents, I ran the numbers earlier today. Adding 10 cents to the state gas tax would only give about $323 million a year. To put that in perspective, we have about $20 billion worth of needs over the next 20 years. So it doesn't get us all the way there. But once we start dealing with sales tax, we start competing as an industry with education, with public safety, with the other things that sales tax pays for.
So what makes best sense to you? Is it 10 cents? Is it increase with indexing? Is it indexing alone? What works for you?
I think what our industry has advocated for a number of years now is an increase in the gas tax with indexing. There's some talk now of double indexing, dealing with fuel efficient vehicles. Plus we have vehicles that aren't paying anything at all with electric hybrids, CNGs. We don't have a taxing mechanism here in the state. So I think to start, gas tax isn't dead yet. I think we could probably raise the gas tax a reasonable amount. Again, $10 a month is what the average Arizonan pays in state gas tax. Gas prices are down just since a year ago over $1. Mm-hmm. And not that that's an excuse, like Michael said, but it's the timing would work out.
Got about 30 seconds.
So the sales tax ideas aren't necessarily good because you're competing with a lot of other things. There are toll road ideas that I know the trucking industry tends not to like, but you see examples where it's played a role in answering the question.
All right, we got to stop it right there. Good discussion. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
It's Constitution Day in Arizona and around the country, a day to recognize the U.S. Constitution's 228th birthday. We'll hear from the author of a recent book on the history of the Bill of Rights. But first, a ceremony was held at the state capitol this morning commemorating Constitution Day.
The United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land, but the states are afforded great flexibility in structuring their own government and in recognizing rights for their citizens that go beyond what the federal Constitution may provide. And that system, that flexibility afforded under our federal system of government, I think is one reason that it's appropriate for us to be celebrating Constitution Day today on September 17th.
We recently looked at the U.S. Constitution's Bill of Rights with local attorney Robert McWhirter, whose new book, Bills, Quills, and Stills, chronicles the history of the Bill of Rights. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Congratulations on this book. I mean, it's one of those things where you pick it up and you just wind up going through it and going through it. Does the world need another book on the Bill of Rights?
Absolutely, especially mine.
Why? Why'd you write this? Why do you think we need this?
You know, the amount of kind of civic education in the schools is much less than it was. And what I wanted to try to do is write a book that dealt with these issues, dealt with the fundamentals of our country. I mean, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are the owner's manual of the country. And I wanted to do that in a way that tied in modern cultural references to show this stuff is relevant. This is important today.
And I should mention that you can't really see too much of it. This is it is illustrated and it is annotated. Sometimes there are more footnotes than there is text, and there are pictures abundantly illustrated on every single. Why'd you go that route?
Because I wanted to display it. I wanted to try to do something new. Look, anybody can find a dusty old tome on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And you know, I have plenty of footnotes in there. For people who like dusty old tomes, it is there. But for people who like to just see references and visuals and how it ties in, that's what I wanted to try to do and make it relevant and interesting.
And to keep it from being boring.
Keep it from being boring.
Because we got enough textbooks out there on the Bill of Rights and the Constitution to where that is probably safely achieved. You write that there are many incorrect notions about the Bill of Rights. What does that mean?
Well, a lot of people have all these notions like, oh, it's in the Bill of Rights and my constitutional rights. Well, you know, the Bill of Rights deal with certain specific things. They didn't really even apply much to normal people for the first 100 years of the Republic. It took the Civil War amendments to give them kind of scope and breadth that we think of today. The right to free speech is only the first part of the 20th century, where you had the free speech cases applying the First Amendment to our daily lives. So these things have kind of grown over time, and that's what's important, and that's where, again, the cultural references come in. What does freedom of the press mean? What does it mean for a modern movie today? All of that is why I tried to do that. And
we should mention you also go into the prehistory there of the Bill of Rights and noted that many of the framers of the Constitution didn't think a Bill of Rights was necessary.
No, no. They thought a Bill of Rights would be redundant. In other words, their point was, look, we provided for a Republican form of government. If you want a right, you can guarantee that your congressman will make sure you get your rights, or your Senate, or the House of Representatives, right? The president's elected. It's not like we have a king. So in every way, we already have a Bill of Rights just by the structure of the Constitution. That argument that they made with great sincerity proved to be totally wrong. Madison, when he first made it, was wrong. Hamilton, when he first made it, they both made that argument in the Federalist Papers. They were just wrong. Nobody liked it. They wanted a Bill of Rights. They wanted a written guarantee of certain things, and that's where you get the Bill of Rights.
And we should mention that Patrick Henry was key in this whole situation, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. See, Patrick Henry didn't really like Madison. And Patrick Henry had kept Madison being from one of the 2 senators from Virginia, because at that period of time, it was the legislatures that chose United States senators. Mm-hmm. So he kept Madison from becoming a senator. So Madison was stuck trying to win a house in the House of Representatives. And Henry kind of gerrymandered him into the same district against another future president, James Monroe, who was kind of George Washington's aide-de-camp during the Revolutionary War. So Madison was fighting for his political life. And Patrick Henry, by the way, most people don't know, was an anti-federalist. He didn't like the federal Constitution. So Madison had to do 2 things. He had to defend the Constitution that he basically wrote, and he had to get reelected. or elected for the first time to Congress. So his idea was, hey, forget what I said in the Federalist Papers. Just ignore that. I'm going to be the champion for a Bill of Rights. And he was, and unlike a lot of politicians, you got to say this, he lived up to his campaign promise.
Yes, yes, he did. Even if he changed his mind, he changed his mind and didn't have a problem with it, which is not, politicians can do that. All right. What is a right?
What is a right? Well, okay. How far back do you want to go? If you went to ancient Rome, your right was dependent. What a right was what being a Roman citizen gave you. Now, if you didn't happen to be a Roman citizen and you were a slave, too bad for you. If you were in ancient Greece, your right was what your polis gave you, your city-state. Okay. Well, you get these radical notions coming on from John Locke that a right is what you have inherent to you as a being. It is unalienable. In other words, you can't alienate it from you. You can't take it away.
God-given.
God-given, although God-given or by some notion of social contract.
Right.
Some thought of God-given, but if you notice, Jefferson, when he wrote the Declaration, didn't say, we get these from God. It is from nature's God, providential things.
Sure.
Okay, so you get a little tension there, right? So a right is what's inherent to you. Now, the trouble with these rights in the state of nature is if you try to exercise them, big guys beat you up. Okay, so the state of nature is not secure for your rights. So we need to have government and we need to have society to give us what we inherently have. Now, why is that important? That's what we argue about today. No, don't do that because it's my right. It's my right to do this, right to bear arms, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we still live in government and every right is subject to limitation. I mean, I'm pretty much a free speech absolutist, but there are certain things I just can't say. Now, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes' famous dicta was, you can't go into a crowded movie theater and falsely yell fire. You can yell fire if there really is a fire, but you can't do it falsely and not expect to be prosecuted criminally. Okay, that is a First Amendment limit. You and I can't agree to have a conspiracy to rob a bank. We don't have a First Amendment right to have that conversation and not get prosecuted for it. Okay, so even the First Amendment, there's limits, and all rights have duties and responsibilities as well as benefits.
And with that in mind, as we continue moving toward the Bill of Rights and how it was founded, the role of slavery in the formation of the Bill of Rights. Talk to us about that. It was huge.
It was huge. Let's do just two amendments. The Second Amendment. Many of the southern states' concerns about maintaining the right to bear arms was so that they could have patrols to guard against insurrection from slaves. That was specifically what they were worried about. They often did not send arms or men to the Continental Army because they wanted to make sure they had their slave patrols intact to guard against insurrection. So that was clear. Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. Okay, so the government can't come in and looking for contraband. Now the contraband usually today are drugs, cocaine, heroin, whatever, right? The contraband of that time was molasses. And the molasses was in New England. It was converted to rum. The rum was taken to the coast of Africa. 110 gallons could buy you a human being, which is about, $2,900 in US dollars today. That human being was brought over. He was sent to the southern United States where he grew sugar to make more molasses, which went back up to New England to be converted to rum. It was the triangle trade.
Yes.
Cutting Great Britain out of the trade,
right,
which was pissing Great Britain off. So the entire reason we have that Fourth Amendment is to protect from unreasonable searches and seizures because the British government had what was called a general search warrant, writs of assistance, to go break into your house to look for contraband molasses. They could look in your trunks, your warehouse, everywhere to look for contraband molasses without specificity or particularity, which is what the Fourth Amendment today requires.
And obviously slavery involved there. Also, I guess that explains Bills, Quills, and Stills, the title of your book.
Prodigious amounts of alcohol. Yeah. They all do. And by the way, alcohol at a different place. I mean, they liked alcohol the same reason we do, but let's say you had an ache and pain. Well, you couldn't pop a Tylenol in 1791. You probably drank some beer. Or let's say you wanted some vitamin C in the morning in the middle of the winter in Massachusetts. Well, no, you drank a pint of hard cider, because that's where you got your vitamin C. So they drank a lot more alcohol than we do, let's put it that way.
You write that every right has a purpose and every right has a history. Explain.
Yeah. Well, you trace everything back. Now, when we say, my rights, a lot of what we mean are actually after the Bill of Rights was written. For instance, right to universal education. The framers never provided for that. We have done that. We have grown and expanded. So with various purposes that have grown up over time, we have provided this sense of rights, and we have expanded that sense of rights. Now, the big debate today, for instance, is the right to universal health care. The framers never thought of that. Most industrialized nations realize they need that, and we are trying to respond, and we are arguing about it as vehemently today as the framers did about various rights that they wrote down in the bills.
And it wasn't the Ninth Amendment kind of the forgotten amendment that kind of includes this idea of things that weren't included? Talk to us about the Ninth Amendment.
Well, Justice Robert Jackson said, I was trying to think about what those rights were in the Ninth Amendment, and I'm sorry, I just can't think of one right offhand. That's not his exact words, but this mystery, there's still a mystery to me, is what he said.
Yes.
And Robert Bork said, oh, the Ninth Amendment's kind of an ink blot. In other words, they didn't write it down. Well, the Ninth Amendment are all these things like rights that aren't retained. It's a concept of natural law. In other words, we've written down certain rights in the Bill of Rights, but all those other rights you still have. In other words, the government doesn't get them. So the Ninth Amendment was intended as kind of a catch-all to make sure it said that all of your rights that you have unalienable to you, you still get, even though we wrote down the Bill of Rights.
Right.
See, some of the early arguments against putting a Bill of Rights, and Hamilton advanced this, is look, you can't write these things down because if you write them down, it's going to assume the government gets all the rest that you don't write, and we can't write every right down. Well, the Ninth Amendment was the answer to Hamilton's argument that was in the Federalist Papers.
Which moves us then to the 10th Amendment.
The 10th Amendment.
And that is now, 10th Amendment, it's amazing. You go for decades without hearing about the 10th Amendment. All of a sudden, you're hearing a lot about the 10th Amendment.
In the Supreme Court, in the case versus Bond, the United States versus Bond, it's in play after 210 years. It's all of a sudden the 10th Amendment's in play. The 10th Amendment is more about states' rights and the states' rights arguments. But the interesting thing about the 10th Amendment, it says all the rights that are not specified for the federal government go to the states or to the people. Well, over time, we have read or to the people as more important than to the states. Mm-hmm. In other words, the federal government, we contract individually with the federal government. See, we're Arizonans, right? But it's not us as Arizonans getting our rights from the federal government. It's us as individuals. See, we can cut Arizona out of the equation and say, hey, state of Arizona, you can't do this because you're violating my First Amendment rights. We usually don't look to the Arizona Constitution on that.
Right.
And that's what the 10th Amendment, which was originally intended more to protect states' rights, has evolved over time to be an individual right.
So we've got these 10 amendments here, and you've obviously, it's a big book, lots of photos, lots of drawings, lots of pictures, annotation just everywhere. How do you focus all of this into making sure each amendment gets its proper perspective, historical narrative? How long did this take?
Oh, 8 to 10 years. With difficulty is how you do it.
Yeah?
It takes a lot of time to mull it over. I'll tell you, one of the hardest chapter by far was the last chapter I wrote, which was the First Amendment chapter.
Yeah.
Because in the First Amendment, if you take almost any issue of the culture wars today, it involves the First Amendment. Freedom of religion, free exercise of religion, freedom from being established. In other words, I want to freely exercise my religion, but I need to be free from you establishing your religion over me. Freedom of speech, freedom of press, everything is there. And that was difficult. Do you deal with it as two separate amendments, or do you deal with it as one? And I took a leap of faith. And what I came up with was what they were arguing they wanted the right to speak about was religion. In other words, they were intricately involved. Now, I personally am not a proponent of this idea that they created a Christian nation. I just don't believe that's what they intended to do. But the basis of the right to speak, what they wanted to speak about was their creed. And what their creed was whatever creed they have when they came here. And that's what the First Amendment grew out of.
What kind of reaction you getting so far from the book?
So far it's been positive. We'll see. There's stuff in here, for instance, on the Second Amendment chapter, I've had people that are vehement individual right gun advocates that like the chapter, and I've had people that believe in serious gun control, and they like the chapter. I tried to be as balanced as I could with the history. I mean, there is a historical argument to support an individual rights notion of the Second Amendment and a kind of a collectivist right, so it's all part of the militia. And you can take history, and there's enough history there to support either argument. And I try to be as fair as possible on each one as I go through. Now, that being said, when I hear different arguments about the Constitution, when I argue about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, there are arguments that I disagree with, but I think are valid arguments with which I simply disagree. And then there's arguments that are simply not valid. They don't historically work.
Right.
There's no historical support. And I try to, as politely as I can, draw that distinction.
Well, you did a great job. I highly recommend it on this because it's I hate to say it, but it's kind of an easy read. It's certainly easy on the eyes, and it's a job well done. Congratulations on
Thank you
this.
very much.
Thank you for being here.
Good.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.